Am I the asshole for locking my girlfriend out of the basement so I could eat in peace? I am 39 and male. My girlfriend is 41. We have lived together for a bit over a year in my house. During the time that I have lived with my girlfriend, I've become very used to the fact that she really seems to de-stress by complaining. Much of this complaining is about other people in her life, such as her mother and her former co-workers. But much of this complaining is about me and how I'm not meeting her expectations in one way or another. I'm generally fine listening to her rant and will make all the appropriate motions to show that I'm listening, but a few months back, her complaining increased significantly in frequency. Again, I'm happy to listen to her, but one time that I do not want to listen to complaining is when I'm eating. Breakfast time isn't an issue because she's still asleep when I eat it, and lunchtime is fine because I work 6 days a week and I'm out for lunch, but I would really love nothing more than to just have a quiet dinner. It's especially irritating because she gets upset when I don't answer her fast enough, even when I'm chewing. She'll start saying, "Hello? Hello? Hello? Are you even listening?" as I try to swallow the food quickly and answer her. I expressed this to her a few months back. I put it as nicely as possible, with the excuse that I don't do well with talking during mealtime. If anything, it has had the opposite effect. I'm convinced that she's actually timing her complaints to begin when I start eating dinner now. While I'm making my dinner, she'll be quiet, and when I sit down waiting for it to cool, she'll be quiet. But once the fork reaches my mouth, she'll immediately start complaining. Last Saturday, I told her that I couldn't deal with her complaining during dinner time anymore, and that if she did it again, I would start eating elsewhere. She responded, "Yeah, okay, fine." Then she sat down at the table and stared at me. When I took my first bite, she said, "Oh, by the way, today you kicked one of my sescorts when you were putting yours on. It made me feel like you only care about your own things and not mine." I stood up and went down to the basement to eat, locking the door behind me. I've taken to doing this for every day since, and she'll bang on the door at times. At other times, she has demanded I give her a key, as I have the only copy. Today, she was literally crying and begging me to eat dinner at the table, but I said no. Now she's threatening to take the door off its hinges while I'm at work, so I know I have to lock it from the outside before going tomorrow.
Am I in the wrong here?
Why are you with someone this miserable? I cannot imagine listening to someone complain every mealtime, all day, every day. Are you really going to do this for the next 20 years or more? Yikes, NTA. It's not even about her being miserable. It's more about her engaging in emotional abuse. A partner who constantly complains and blames is abusive. I can completely understand someone might want to confront a partner for one reason or another at times, but the fact that she actually decided to go into a tirade about him accidentally kicking her sescort when he put his own sescorts on just shows she'll complain about literally anything. There's also the fact that even after he asked her to stop for the short time it takes him to eat dinner, she completely ignored him and intentionally timed her complaining for when she knew he didn't want to listen to it. I cannot understand why some people in this post seem to think OP is wrong. I know this doesn't apply to you, but some people are suggesting that this is his fault. The man is in an abusive relationship. Story 2. Am I the asshole for putting dinner away and playing video games after my girlfriend came home drunk? My GF and I live together. I am 29 and she is 26. We've lived together for 6 months. I've been very busy at work and with life, so yesterday I was really looking forward to cooking dinner for GF and I and relaxing. We had this planned all weekend. My GF is more of a social butterfly than I am, so she had plans yesterday morning with her friends. She had brunch at 11 and I was planning on having dinner ready by 6:30. I expected her to have a few mimosas at breakfast, but nothing too crazy. Maybe she'd get home and take a nappy nap before dinner. Basically, brunch turned into going to one more bar after, around 1 p.m., which turned into more bars, which basically became bar hopping all day. She was texting me insisting that she will be home in time for dinner, but by the way she was talking, I could tell she was drunk. I started making the pasta around 5 p.m. Around 5:30, I saw on her Snap story that she was doing shots at a bar in a completely different neighborhood of Chicago. I didn't want to be the boyfriend who nags, so I let it go. I was getting seriously annoyed because I was thinking, oh, great, she's going to be hammered for our nice night we had planned. At 6:30, she was not home yet. I saw on her location that she was now at a different bar from where they were taking shots at. I ate and asked my friends if they wanted to play PlayStation, so I packed up the food, put it in the fridge, and hopped on PlayStation with the boys. GF arrived home around 7:15 p.m., clearly drunk. She asked WTF I was doing, and what about dinner? I said she was late, and dinner was done, but it's in the fridge, so she can heat some up if she wants. She apologized for being a little bit late, but basically gave me a half-assed laughing apology saying, "You never know what to expect when the girl gang goes to brunch." I said that's fine, but I now have other plans. She called me rude and went to bed. We haven't talked much about it today, but I can tell she is being passive-aggressive, so am I the asshole? Edit. Oh, and she also went and said my dinner didn't look very good, so she door-dashed Taco Bell. Update. GF and I talked. We are okay for the most part. She did sincerely apologize. She said she wished I came when she invited me, though, after she learned it might be out longer than like 2 p.m. This started another issue or think we need to figure out in our relationship. She opened up and said she wished sometimes I was more outgoing and social. She wishes I wasn't fine with sitting around the apartment all the time. Commenter, enjoy dating an asshole then. She bailed on your dinner plans, didn't apologize, bragged about her friends, called you rude, WTF, insulted your food and is now passive-aggressive. She has no respect for you, and this will continue until you dump her. Then she and her girl gang will continue with their antics because this is the center of her life, not your life with her. You are just an accessory she plays with in her downtime. NTA, but keep building some boundaries and stand up for yourself, but it seems she won't care if you dump her, and slightly looks down on you for staying with her. Commenter, like you said, she was home almost an entire hour late. Did she seriously just expect you to sit at the table with a cold dinner, twiddling your thumbs and waiting for her? And the fact that she just door-dashed her own food and insulted your cooking is even worse. Your GF doesn't sound very mindful of you, your time, or your efforts. And the fact that she's giving you the silent treatment to try and make you look like the bad guy is even worse. Honestly, she put her girl gang ahead of you. I would stop and reevaluate your relationship with her. Has she frequently been picking her friends or other things over you? Story 3. Am I the asshole for letting you know I am divorcing you by sending you a thread on the website that you used to ignore me? I, 29F, have been married to my husband, 35M, for 5 years, and we've been together for nearly 10. On paper, everything seemed fine. But in reality, our marriage has been anything but. I've reached my breaking point, and I need to know if I'm the one in the wrong here. From the beginning, my meal has been a nightmare. She made everything about her from day one. At our wedding, she wore white, claiming it was a family tradition. It wasn't. She constantly criticizes me, from my cooking to my appearance. I'll never forget the time she called me fat at a family gathering, right in front of everyone. And what did my husband do? Nothing. Not a single word to defend me. It didn't stop there. She has, accidentally, destroyed my belongings, including my grandmother's necklace, which she threw out because it looked like cheap costume jewelry. She's gone out of her way to make me feel small and unwelcome in my own home. But every time I tried to talk to my husband about it, he'd brush it off, saying I was overreacting or being too emotional. And then there's my husband. He's always on Reddit, constantly giving strangers relationship advice, which is laughable considering how he treats me. He spends more time rating women's boobs on Reddit than talking to me, literally. And just so you know, the last pair he rated weren't a 4 out of 10. They were a 10 out of 10. Yeah, he's got plenty of time to do that, but can't be bothered to remember anything about my life. He'll forget my birthday, our anniversary, even simple things like what I'm working on or what's important to me, but he has a perfect memory for his work schedule and things that matter to him. When we fight, he becomes incredibly hostile and always throws in a sarcastic buddy at the end of his sentences, like I'm some acquaintance he can barely tolerate, and he never cleans. The house, the dishes, laundry, you name it, it's all on me. It's like he thinks being an adult is optional as long as he's got his job and his Reddit account. The final straw came a few weeks ago. I'm 5 months pregnant with our first child, a daughter. My mill started making comments about how she'll have to whip the girl into shape and how she'll raise her to be tough because I'm too soft. When I told my husband that I didn't want his mother to have too much influence on our daughter, especially with the way she treats me, he just laughed it off, saying his mother means well and that I was overthinking it. But the moment that truly broke me was when we were talking about future childcare and my husband suggested that his mother should watch our daughter while we work. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, especially considering how his mother treats me, and he snapped. He called me paranoid and said I should get over it because his mother was going to be a big part of our daughter's life whether I liked it or not. This is the same woman who believes corporal punishment is okay. I've seen her hit my husband's nephew for the smallest things, and no one does anything about it. It's like they're all living in some kind of cult, and I'm finally waking up to the reality of what's going on. If he wouldn't stand up for me, how could I expect him to stand up for our child? I started to fear for what kind of environment our daughter would grow up in, a place where she might be belittled or bullied by her own grandmother, with a father who wouldn't do anything to stop it. Oh, and did I mention that he missed our first ultrasound? His mother needed him to help her with something urgent. It turned out to be fixing her Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi! He chose that over seeing our daughter for the first time. That told me everything I needed to know about where I stand in his life. So I packed up and left. I'm done living like this. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I've already contacted a lawyer. You can't scare me into complying anymore because I have all those texts. You know exactly which ones I'm talking about. So, Stefan, I wish you all the best in your future marriage, with your mother and the women of Reddit, whose boobs you don't even deserve. Am I the asshole for leaving my husband after he neglected me for years? Let his mother mistreat me? and made me fear for our future daughter's safety? Tiny update. Stefan has seen this post. He is mad that apparently one of you found him based on the rate my boobs thing. He has deleted his account. For any purposes, I want to clarify that I left out any actual incriminating information that could lead to doxing him. Any and all people who are pretending to know me or have any incriminating information about me are lying. I am not from South Carolina. I am not moving in with any other guy, and I am also not sleeping around. Update. Some people on Reddit have been pretending to know me and spreading false claims. They've said I'm a deadbeat who doesn't work, and that Stefan has 2 jobs to support me. They even fabricated a story about a neighbor, who supposedly is a good friend of ours, saying I've been sleeping around and moving in with the guys I supposedly had affairs with. None of this is true. We don't live in South Carolina or the UK, and we're not friends with any of our neighbors. I have never cheated on Stefan, and I work and make slightly more than him. Just $1 an hour difference. I suspect these claims might be from trolls brigading or Stefan's friends trying to make me regret posting about this. I am safe and staying with family, which is all I'm going to say for now. I'm working with my lawyer to ensure our safety, and that's all I can disclose at this time. For women who find themselves in my situation and are dealing with a lease, consult with a pro bono lawyer who specializes in rental rights. That's what I did. They can give you advice specific to your country or region. In my case, I was able to move out because Stefan and I had both signed a lease contract and had completed the minimum rental period. After my free consultation, I worked with my landlords, who are a lovely older couple, to arrange my departure. So don't be scared. You can be scared, but there are things you can do to protect yourself. Also, make sure to run a credit check on yourself. I did, and it's another issue I'm addressing. As for recent developments, there hasn't been much new. Stefan is clearly desperate. He and Miami L have both had meltdowns and launched separate smear campaigns. Miami L has spread false claims, including that I'm an unfit mother and that I've been abandoning my responsibilities. I don't plan to answer these claims publicly. I'm collecting all evidence I have, especially since she has nothing to back up her accusations. But I have everything to back up mine. So, no, Stefan. This is not going to be a he said, she said situation. He deleted his Reddit account, claiming it was because one person found him. But then he told me a bunch of people sent him death threats, which seems impossible and contradictory. He did send his friends to my post, and I think they sent me some unsavory DMs and comments. Allegedly. When I tried to talk to Stefan, he always made me feel like I was going crazy. Whenever I raised concerns or expressed feelings, he would dismiss them, belittle my emotions, and make me second-guess myself. For instance, I'd come home to find that he had invited people over without informing me in advance. When I brought it up, he'd insist that he had mentioned it earlier, even though I knew he hadn't. Another time, I planned a special meal and asked him for a specific dish, but he claimed I'd requested something completely different. When I reminded him of what I had actually asked for, he'd argue that I must have forgotten my own request. Stefan would also insist he had completed tasks that I had actually done myself. For example, he would claim he had handled a household chore when I was the one who actually took care of it. When I pointed this out, he'd dismiss my recollection and insist that he had done it. Even in conversations about our relationship, Stefan would frequently deny things he had said or done. If I brought up issues I had with his mother's behavior, he'd claim, "You never mentioned that before. You're just being overdramatic." This made me question whether I had ever truly discussed these problems or if I was indeed overreacting. At one point, I was so convinced that I had early onset dementia or schizophrenia that I started to question my own sanity. I felt lost and confused, struggling to distinguish between reality and his version of events. I began to document our interactions just to keep track of what was actually happening. But Stefan would always find a way to twist things, saying, "You must be misremembering," even though I had clear evidence to the contrary. Feeling so powerless, I realized that sharing my story online was the only way to present my truth in a manner he couldn't manipulate. I wanted to ensure that there was a clear and unchangeable record of what had happened. Posting about my experiences was a crucial step in reclaiming my voice and finding support from others who might understand my situation. It was a way to take control of my narrative after feeling so lost and doubting myself for so long. Thank you all for your support during this difficult time. Story 4. Am I the asshole for asking a customer's kid not to touch something? I, 24M, work at a popular fast food restaurant. I've been working here since this location opened, and I love working here. I like my coworkers, my boss is great, and I've never had any problems with customers. Until today. We have a self-serve drink machine near the front of the store. Today, a family of 3 came in, a mom, dad, and their daughter, who looked about 4 or 5. I was the cashier for the day, and dad came to take their order, while mom went to sit down at the benches we have at the door to scroll on her phone. Their daughter, however, beelined to the drink station. Noticing the daughter about to stick her hands inside the spigot for the iced tea, which is separate from the soda machine. I calmly say, I didn't raise my voice at all. They and another family were in the store. Excuse me, little one, could you please not touch that? Mom looked up from her phone, immediately got defensive, and yelled at me, Don't yell at my child, I'm right here, you could have just gotten my attention. Now I get it, stranger danger and all that. Don't want strangers talking to your child. However, I needed to stop her before she actually touched it. It's a health hazard. People get drinks out of that, and I don't know where your daughter's hands have been. Your entire family just came from outside. She could have had peanut butter residue or something on her hands, and the next person to drink out of it would have went into anaphylactic shock. And I didn't raise my voice. I used a gentle voice just to get her attention and not contaminate the spigot. I apologized to the mom and explained the above, minus the outside part. She, however, isn't having it, and yells at me again that she's right there and not to speak to her child. Dad is right there at the register, just waiting for this to finish so I can take his order. So I apologized to her again and turned to her husband to take his order. As soon as I turned to her husband, she's back on her phone now with her daughter sitting next to her, hand around the shoulder. Aida, should I have done anything differently? I've already told my boss, and after they left I still disinfected and sanitized the spigot, even though I stopped her before she touched it. I felt like if I did it while she was still there, she would have had another meltdown. While it may seem obvious I wasn't in the wrong, I was doubting myself since this was the first time I've witnessed someone got so defensive over their child doing something wrong. Just the other day, we had a kid climb up on the table after not listening to his mom, but when I gently told him to get down and did, Mom thanked me. So other lady's response kinda surprised me. So today is my day off, and I just got off the phone with my boss. I'm not in trouble, and she reassured me about that. She called to tell me that the mom came back and tried to complain. This is secondhand from her, so some of it might not be accurate. According to her, lady came alone and tried to file a complaint that I screamed at her child and frightened her. I am so glad the restaurant has cameras with audio, so my boss played back the incident for Mom to watch. Boss said she had to max out the volume because she could almost not hear me over the generic music we have playing in the store. After the video played, boss says to lady, So you want me to punish my worker for stopping your kid from messing up all that iced tea? Because if he hadn't, and she successfully did so, I would have made you pay for all the iced tea she ruined. And she would have. My boss is a short, middle-aged black lady from the South. She knows how to insult people and make it sound like a compliment. Don't worry, she doesn't use this power for evil. Not to mention, we had just made that tea, so the container was near full. Container holds about 5 gallons. Boss said lady got wide-eyed and backpedaled hard on her stance, told her to thank me on my next shift and left the store, then called me, since she thought the whole thing was ridiculous. And now looking back on it, I kinda agree. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my day off, maybe stop by the store and buy my boss something nice. Story 5. Am I the asshole for kicking my sister out of my wedding because she did not follow the color scheme? When I-25F was 9, my parents adopted my sister, Jen, who was 7 at the time. Jen was thin and fearful due to being neglected. We did everything to make her feel loved. We bought her lots of toys. Everything Jen wanted, she got. When my parents asked me to move to the smaller bedroom so Jen could have my room, I was happy to. When they asked if I would let Jen pick the decorations and cake for my upcoming birthday, I agreed. I was so happy to have a sister, and I understood why my parents gave her special treatment. Only the treatment didn't stop. For years, every trip we went on, we had to do what Jen wanted to do. We had to eat where she wanted to eat, and she got to plan all my birthday parties. If she didn't get what she wanted, she threw a tantrum. I still felt loved and cared for by my parents. They drove me to practices, bought me things, cooked meals for me, spent quality time, and gave me advice. But I was always second to Jen. As I got older, I did anything I could to leave the house. I got my first job when I was 12. I vacationed with friends instead of family. I played 3 different sports and did band. I took my driver's test the day I turned 16 and bought a car the day after. I went to college on the other side of the country. Now that I make good money, I do things I missed as a child. I take fancy vacations and throw elaborate parties as I please. My wedding was no exception. My fiancé Kip and I wanted everything to be perfect. We thought it would be fun to have a color scheme. My favorite color is yellow, and his is blue. So my guests would wear yellow, his would wear blue, and mutual friends would wear green. I picked out a dress with green embroidered details, and he picked a boutonniere with green flowers. When Jen found out about this, she was mad. I didn't know this, but she hates yellow, and it washes her out. She told me under no circumstances would she wear yellow. I shrugged and said that was fine. I would just kick her out if she did not wear yellow. There was no further discussion, but on my wedding day, Jen came in a purple dress. I told her to leave immediately. The color scheme was perfect, and she ruined it. Jen refused to leave until I threatened to call security. The rest of the wedding went smoothly, but afterwards, my parents were furious with me for kicking Jen out. I told them that I warned her she would be kicked out if she didn't follow the color scheme, but they said they all thought it was a joke. They said it was cruel of me to kick my sister out over something so trivial. I told them this was my wedding that I threw without their support, so I can kick out Westcourt if I want to. Kip came rushing to defend me and even told my parents they should be ashamed of how they treated me. But over the past few days, a lot of people I've talked to, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, have been mixed. Some say they wouldn't have even invited Jen if they were me, while others think I should have let it slide. Ada? Edit. Contest mode is over and I can finally edit. I want to make a few things clear. 1. I figured people would assume this, but I did not ask my guests to dress head to toe in their assigned color. I completely understand that people might not have yellow formal wear laying around. I said to dress in only neutral colors and/or your assigned color, so someone could wear a black dress and yellow jewelry, a black suit, and a yellow tie, etc., but no colors outside neutral or your assigned color. 3. I invited Jen because she is family, and I honestly thought she was more mature than this. I did not know she hated the color yellow when I chose the color scheme. Additional information from OOP. 2 things for everyone to know. 1. Jen was the only person to not follow the color scheme. 2. We didn't ask people to come in head-to-toe yellow/blue/green. To get into specifics, we asked that if people did not own those colors, they could wear neutral formal wear with a tie/necklace/accessory in their assigned color. Commenter 1. NTA. The question here isn't whether or not a color scheme is stupid. It very well could be, but it's also becoming the norm. And frankly, if you don't like it, you don't have to attend the event. But what you don't get to do is say a color scheme is stupid, so I'll make up my own rules and force the couple being married to let me in. Jen was stupid here. OP, you did the right thing in kicking her out. Her feelings that she can dictate the rules for your wedding aren't any worse than you having those rules in place. In short, Jen, she got what she wanted in the end. Commenter 2. NTA. I have been to weddings where the bride and groom wanted a color scheme. To date, I have not known of anyone who had such a problem that they showed up in a different color just for spite. Because make no mistake about it, that is exactly why your sister showed up in purple. Pure spite. If the color yellow was really the problem, she could have asked to wear blue. Instead, she showed up in purple with the express intention of upstaging the bride and groom and causing a scene, knowing all the time that your parents would back her up. Your parents have been crafty to you ever since your sister showed up. Time to call them and your sister out for their obnoxious behavior and blatant favoritism. Update. First, thanks for all of your comments. I felt so guilty the past few days and was worried it would carry into my honeymoon, but you have helped me realize that I am not the bad guy, and it is okay that I responded the way I did. Last night, my parents reached out to me and asked if all the things Kip said about how they should be ashamed were true. At that point, I told them how my upbringing had impacted me, and how my wedding was supposed to make up for the parties I never had as a kid, the decisions I never got to make. For the first time, I was able to call all of the shots and make everything exactly the way I wanted it to be. I even showed them this post, and how most of you responded to help reinforce what I said. My parents said they had absolutely no idea how deeply their treatment had affected me. This is somewhat fair because I never really talked to them about it, but at the same time I feel like they should have wondered why I left home as soon as I could, never came back, and hardly ever called them. They said they feel so sorry about it, and are now planning a vacation with them, myself, and Kip for next summer to make up for it. I'm trying not to get my hopes up, but at least now it looks like they're making an effort. As for Jen, according to my parents, she really struggled to make friends in middle school and high school. I didn't know this because I practically lived with my high school BF my sophomore-junior year of high school, and then graduated early, and Jen repeated a year in elementary school due to trauma, so we were 5 grades apart despite only being 2.5 years apart. My parents tried putting her in therapy, but she wouldn't cooperate. College was a slap in the face for her when she realized the world didn't revolve around her. She had to live in the same 7x9 room with plaster walls and linoleum floors as everyone else. She dropped out after a year and tried getting a job, but got fired after a few months. At that point, my parents realized they really seeked up. They told Jen she had to either go to intensive therapy or they would kick her out. According to my parents, she's now taking classes at a community college and hoping to transfer to a 4-year institution. She's doing better for the most part, though she occasionally lashes out. I'm glad Jen is getting the help she needs and working towards a career, and excited about potentially going on a trip with my parents and husband, while also knowing they might bail. I'm open to having more of a relationship with them, but I don't think we'll ever be a super tight-knit family. Some wounds are too deep. But instead of dwelling on the past, I'm looking towards my future starting a family with Kip, and making sure I don't make the same mistakes my parents did. Story 6. Asked my husband if he still loved me. His answer: you asked some difficult questions. I, F36, am married, M37. for over a decade. Some months ago, I got diagnosed with GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, and depression, post-pandemic issues. I have a therapist every week, take medication, and I see my psychiatrist once a month. But I feel like my problems with my husband is more than I can take right now. Whenever I have a meltdown, my husband doesn't want to cuddle or spend time with me. He says I have to deal with it all by myself, talk to a friend or my therapist. He says he cannot give me what I need, cuddling and support. So, when I isolate myself due to anxiety, we end up in an argument. He accuses me of ignoring our children and being rude. I get very irritated, but not violent to him. If I decide to hang out with friends, socialization is what I truly need. He gets jealous and accuses me of looking for another man. In any of those situations, he keeps arguing with me until I reach my breaking point. I end up in an anxiety attack and need to take a sedative. When I tell him I cannot live like that, he says we need to get a divorce because he is my trigger. I tried to explain that I have many triggers right now due to my mental illness. I don't blame him. My problem is how he handles it. That whenever I have a problem, he runs away or transforms it into a problem about himself. He constantly says that he's not an empathetic person and doesn't know how to handle that. However, when I come to my breaking point, he says he loves me, take care of me, and hug me until I fall asleep. The next day, he says he wants to be with me forever. I told him I feel abandoned by him and unloved. I truly feel that he wants a divorce, but he is waiting for me to make the decision. I feel quite blind in this situation. I truly don't know what to do. I have little energy, and I wish I could focus it on getting better, especially for my kids. I can't use it to help my relationship right now, but I don't know what I should do to make him understand that. We visited my doctor together so he could understand a little bit about the situation. Generalized anxiety disorder and depression. Terrible idea. He criticized me all the time, blamed me for not getting better, and at the end said he didn't believe we could work out anymore. Yes, he said that to my doctor, who was trying to make him understand how GAD and depression are affecting me. At the end, I was crying and he was angry at me and at the doctor. He insisted I took him to a couples therapy without his consent. The next day, I asked him the question I posted. When he couldn't answer if he still loved me, I removed my wedding ring and said we were done. I couldn't be with someone who couldn't answer this simple question. More than a decade together, and that's how he answered me. He apologized, cried, and said he doesn't love me anymore. My anxiety has destroyed his feelings for me. I'm heartbroken, but relieved, because I couldn't spend my energy on this relationship, when clearly I was the only one fighting for it. At least now, I know it's over. However, I feel lonely, since I will have to fight this mental disorder all by myself. Family lives far away. I must get better for my children, and I cannot move out right now, nor him. We will have 2 different bedrooms while sharing the house. We will also talk to a mediator in order to organize the separation while I'm fighting against GAD and depression. I hope it's going to help. We have the kids and they don't know yet how to tell them. I feel like I failed this family, and I'm afraid I will end up getting worse. Tell me, how did you cope with all of this if you went through similar situation in your past? I need some hope. Update 1. So, after the decision to get separated, things got better at home. I believe that a weight has been removed from our shoulders. So we had almost no arguments. We were being kind to one another, and my anxiety got better, as well as my depression. Things were so good that we made the mistake of sleeping together. That gave me lots of hope. Maybe we would find our way back together. After that, we talked. I told him we could not repeat that. I still have feelings for him, so it would hurt me a lot if the sex meant nothing to him. We had a mediation session and tears were all over. We agreed he would no longer hug me when I left in the morning. The mediator said we had to cut those physical connections to avoid repeating the same mistake. Also, he would clear his office, which would become my new bedroom. It was difficult, but we cut off the hugs after a couple days. He, on the other hand, asked for the day off at work. I thought it would be to clean the office, but no. Later he told me he has an internal fight. He didn't want the separation, but he believed that it was necessary, because we were not happy together. I remind him he is the one who doesn't love me anymore, and that I am unhappy due to my depression. A couple days later, we were discussing something, and messages kept popping up on my phone. It was a Reddit male friend, call X, who has the same name as a friend, call Z, I have over here. The same day, I would go to a party where Z would be attending. My ex got a bit uncomfortable and asked me if Z and I were flirting. I said no, and explained that the messages were from X, who lives in another country. He was clearly jealous, and when I returned from the party, my ex tried to have sex with me, which I denied. The next day, we talked about that, and I asked him about his feelings. I assured him I was not interested in other people. Also, that once again, we could not have sex if he didn't love me anymore. I asked him if he was unsure about his feelings, but he said he was just horny, nothing else. I felt so disrespected. He knew about my feelings and tried having sex with me because he was horny? The next days, I kept sending him photos of the new furniture I would need to buy for my new room. I was asking him some advices regarding the size of them. None of them was good. Too big, too small, too expensive. After that, I reminded him that he needed to clean the office. I told him that sharing a room was making things difficult for me. So I asked him if he was having second thoughts, because he was delaying it. Plus, he was issues with every suggestion I made regarding the furniture. He didn't even think twice before answering, "Nah, I am being just lazy. You are complicating things." He suggested I could clean it myself. I reminded him that this was his job, and that we had agreed on that during the mediation. Yeah, this super sincere answer hurt, but now we are back to arguments. Again, he does not accept my emotions and get angry or rude to me anytime I say something he doesn't like. Sometimes I feel like he deliberate confuses me, so I don't move on. Update 2. Just a quick update. We had a mediation session earlier this week. I spoke about the mixed signals he sent me, how they confused me and gave me hope. The mediator said exactly what you guys said. There is not coming back now. You made your decision clear, Ben, my ex. Can you see how you make her feel? It is not helpful. He cried and apologized to me. After the session, I had a very depressive episode where I couldn't stop crying. He put me in bed, gave me my medicine, and stayed with me until I fell asleep. This same night, he started cleaning the office. Yesterday, he went to the store to get my new mattress, so I didn't have to wait for delivery nor do it by myself. He also measured the things I needed and helped me with everything related to the new furniture. I think reality wasn't hitting him so deep down as it was supposed to be. Our next step will be the worst one, to tell the kids what's going on. I already prepared notes to send to their teachers and got a therapist in case they need someone to talk to. Once again, thanks for the kind messages and suggestions. I feel much better now. Update 3. My ex said something a time ago regarding a lost friendship, and I would like to use this metaphor over here. This separation feels like grieving without a body to grieve on. I have to go through all the mourning phases, as if I have lost something. I did lose my emotional support, my confidant, and who I used to lean on. I am learning how to walk alone again, and it hurts a lot. However, I am fine. It does not hurt as much as before, and I feel less lost. I denied, I got angry, then tried to bargain. I got more depressed and hurt, but finally I arrived at acceptance. Each stage had its own time. I needed help to get over each one of them. I am not ready to date anyone, but I am having a blast getting to know new people. My ex, on the other hand, is having a hard time. He cried a lot last week, got angry, tried to annul the separation and get back together. He asked me to change my passwords so he would not give in to the desperation to check my phone. I tried to help him because I am like that. I love him. He is part of my life and my kid's dad. I cannot leave him suffering. So I offered him some help, some support, but also I respected my limits, my boundaries, and I didn't betray my process. I didn't let him kiss me, but I gave him a hug when he needed. I was able to separate each feeling, because I was being his friend, not his wife anymore, and I was able to do that without jeopardizing my progress of acceptance. Now I sleep better. I can concentrate on my job, tell friends about my separation, and feel that my anxiety and depression are getting better. I am helping him as much as I can, but I accept that the separation is necessary at the moment. I accept that we might get back together in the future or not. I am not anxious about it right now. I am accepting the present and the past and hoping for a better future. And for the first time in months, I told my therapist that in a couple months I might be able to reduce the dose of my medication. There is hope. There is a light at the end. We just need to accept that everything takes its own time. Update 4. So I went to a birthday party with some friends and I met someone. Let's call him Nate. He is very nice, has a beautiful smile, and is also divorced. His ex told him she didn't love him anymore and asked for the divorce. Bueno. But there is a problem. He used to be my ex's coworker. So during the party, he and I talked a lot, due to so much in common. My friend reminded me we were both single and we were definitely enjoying each other's company. The party was amazing and I was drinking a lot, so I decided I would stay for the night in my friend's house. I was sitting on the floor when Nate came to sit close to me with a gorgeous smile. I felt like 1,000 butterflies were in my stomach. We were laughing, talking, and he was sitting very, very close to me. Suddenly he tried to kiss me, but I said no. I totally freaked out. I invited him outside so we could talk away from people. I said I thought that being with him would be a bad idea due to my ex Ben knowing him. When his ex asked for the divorce, he was very sad and told my ex about it. They were not friends, but they could have been. Nate told me he was really into me, complimented my beauty and my smile, and held my hand. We were both drinking a lot, so I just gave in and kissed him back, and it was amazing. I was not checking my phone and Ben was trying to reach me out to check if I was really okay. I usually don't drink to the point I cannot drive or take an Uber. So Ben contacted my friend to ask if I was okay. So my friend texted me to let me know what was going on, since she knew I was with Nate. She told Ben I was with her, sleeping. When I came home in the morning, he started asking me questions. Where I was, who I was with. I told him I didn't have to answer him. It was my privacy. So I found out he checked all my social media accounts and messages, read all my private messages with my friend, and wrote nasty things to her due to her lie. He also reached Nate and said nasty things to him too. He said they were friends and that Nate had betrayed him. Furthermore, he used a fake account as Sexy Girl to message a guy he thought I was with. Ben said I acted like a 20-year-old girl who had no responsibilities nor kids because I came back in the morning. I felt terrible after that. I knew my kids were safe with him, but maybe he is right. He said I need to grow up and not go out drinking again like a young girl. It is not the first time he has told me that. Ben cried all day long, asked me to come back to him to try again, and that he didn't want to lose me. I told him I didn't believe in his love at all, but he swore he truly loved me, that he was mistaken. I met Nate a couple days later to apologize for Ben's reactions. Nate told me things I didn't remember at all. Alcohol. According to him, I called myself too old to make out with someone, not attractive due to some white hairs and a mother's body, and that I didn't deserve his compliments. Nate was gentle and kind to me and said how much he wanted to spend time with me again. He made me feel beautiful and attractive again, and not too old. Nate will be away for 2 months now. He texted me a couple times and we saw each other again before his departure. He said he understands this is all new to me and too soon, but that he would like to take me on a date when he comes back. I, on the other hand, feel like being with him is wrong, very wrong, and sleeping with or going on a date is even worse.